didn't care how late we stayed up playing H-Man and yelling and screaming in the neighborhood. He said just the sound of kids brought a joy to his life.
What sort of people do you see beside you when you walk these streets? What sort of wisdom does it take to guide you north of 53? You've got the railroad stretching out behind you, miles of bush and lake. Once here you know that there's no going back now. Have you got what it takes? It's our town. It's our town. It's our town.
Hi, I'm Bill Hanson. I'm one of the Human Books for Culture Days this year, and this is my neighborhood. This is where it started. This is where I grew up. Just 3 doors down from here is when I was born. My parents moved into this house, and so at 5 years old, this was my playground. And this was built by Gus Gillis, our neighbor on the corner here, who I think the original swing set and the original monkey bars, and there was a couple other things here and a slide. He built them all in his garage right there, and then hauled them over. And then I think Art McKean was his brother-in-law. So he went to Art McKean and he said, "Art, I think it would behoove you to donate sand to this park." So of course Art donated sand many times over the years, and many other things in our community too. But as kids, this was a perfect neighborhood to grow up in. We just, we were free-range kids. All my buddies lived in this one street. The Hogarths on the corner, and then Margaret Gents was next door, took care of my sister. The Gents was next door to them, and my buddy Jimmy Togus next door to them, and the Bratts next door to them, and the Hedmans next door to them. And anyways, it was really a cool place to grow up. And Mr. Gillis, he let every kid play on his lawn. And even as pre-teens and teens, he didn't care how late we stayed up playing H-Man and yelling and screaming in the neighborhood. He said just the sound of kids brought a joy to his life. So him and Dot lived there until, well, I guess pretty much till Gus passed, and then Dot moved, I think, to the Legion housing, and then she passed about 10 years ago. We miss all their kids and miss them. They were like grandma and grandma. I was heartbroken when I found out at 5, 6 years old that they weren't actually my grandma and grandma.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. But yeah, and the field where the Blueberry Jam is held, we called that Potter's Field because Bill Potter, he lived up over there. He had cats and big trucks and hose, and he parked it down there, and as kids, we just crawled all over that stuff, right? I mean, it was fun. And
did you ever do anything in the little lake, in that little pond?
That pond wasn't built until when they built the rotary wheel in the 80s. They dug that dirt out of there, and that was a swamp. And in the middle where that pond is, there was an old truck cab, and we had boards across there to run across that swamp, right? And yeah, and then further down that way, there's another swamp, just about across from that gray garage. We had the Basilewski boys and the Christiak boys, they built giant slingshots with great big tires, and we would lob mud balls across the swamp until one day the Basilewski boys, they let one go and it went up on the road and it actually hit a police car. And so that was the last time we ever played with them, and it was a chase across the swamp. Now fortunately we never got caught.
So funny.
But that's the way that went down. Yeah.
And this area is called?
Birchview.
Birchview.
This is East Birchview.
And where does Willowvale start?
I think Willowvale actually starts just on the other side of Phelan, where about the Legion housing is going that way.
Okay.
Maybe even a little further.
Okay.
But I think that's about where it started.
I'm always amazed when I talk to people that, and Flintlawn is really quite a small community, but you'll have people uptown that never met kids in Willowvale or
No.
growing up?
Unless you were involved in, like I was involved in the ski club at 5 years old.
Okay.
So we got to meet kids from all over the community, right? So I knew kids from Willowvale, I knew kids from Uptown, I knew kids from Channing, I knew kids from 84. And when in the 60s, those were rough times. Now as a child it wasn't that rough, but as a teenager I think you had to know how to fight pretty good.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And so there was the Birchview gang, there was the Uptown gang, there was the Channing gang, the 84 gang, and the Willowvale gang.
Where's 84?
84 is where I live. From Green Street to the end of, to where you head to Channing.
Right.
That's 8 Mile 84
On
the
the
railroad
south
track.
side of, okay.
Okay, and 84 was the railroad designation for that
Okay.
area. And then there was 86. Now I think that was more uptown, and there's no
Okay.
houses there anymore.
Because Willowvale and Birchview, we're talking like meters away from each other, really.
Yes.
And to have people not
Yeah.
connect until they get to a certain...
Yeah. Well, and in
for a certain
school,
reason.
we had, because there was a Willowvale school, and there
right.
was Birchview school, and I mean in those days everybody had 6, 7 kids.
Yes.
So, there was no room for the Willowvale kids to go to Birchview and the
Yeah.
Birchview kids to
Yeah.
go to Willowvale. I don't know where that dividing line was. I think it was Phelan. I'm not sure. No, it might have been actually a little further down because I went to school with the Whitbread kids and they lived a little further down. So
Okay.
it might have been where the Willowvale actually might start where you head into Prince Charles where you live.
Right. Because I know we're told we're in Willowvale.
Yes.
And that's like just blocks away from where we are now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, actually through the bush it's hard to get
Yeah.
distance at all.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so this is site number 1 with Bill Hanson.
Okay, we're at site number 2, the Flintlawn Ski Club. This was a huge part of growing up in Flintlawn for me and my family, my sisters and myself. When I was 5 years old, Ronnie Barr let me use his skis on, we had a hill on Wright Avenue where Bruce Reed's house is now. And that was our sliding hill, and he let me use his skis. And I guess I went home so excited to my mother that they decided, my dad bought my 3 older sisters and myself skis and boots for Christmas. Probably cost him an entire paycheck, but I guess he thought the happiness of his kids was worth it. So we came out here, and the path used to come somewhere about here, and then in here there was a shed that we put our skis in to leave our skis here mind you, it evolved over the years. And about where that garage is where the original clubhouse was. And so, as children we got to meet lots of other kids from all over the community. Like, and we had our ski family. There was the Lyons family from Channing. There was, of course, Ma Creer and all her kids. Ray Creer was my ski coach. And Marilyn Creer is the one who actually taught us how to ski when we were, when we first came out here. Of course, Ma Creer, okay, Marilyn, you teach these kids how to ski. And I think she begrudgingly did it. Grew fonder of us over the years, but at first being told,
Well, the Ma career, how many kids did she have? Like, this was quite the family.
She had a lot of kids that were older than me, like Norm and Betty I knew because they would visit every now and then, but then there was Ivy and I think there must have been about, there had to have been about 7 or 8 of them.
And they were all athletes. Like,
They were all athletes, yeah. Like I think Norm was on the Canadian ski team.
I think he was, yep.
Ray has been a ski instructor at Sunshine since he left Flintlawn.
Wasn't Norm also part of the canoe team or no?
Norm was one of the winners of the
Yeah.
1967 race.
Cross Canada
Centennial race.
Yeah.
Him and Gib McEachran, and I wish I knew the other fellows. But
There's Blair Harvey, I
Blair
think.
Harvey, yeah.
Can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either. They were local heroes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And when Norm would come to town, he would give us special ski lessons.
Wow.
And Norm also owned the Silver Star Ski Club. He was a part owner of the Silver Star in Vernon, BC.
Wow.
So as an adult, when I was working in BC, we actually built a couple of the hotels up there. And so all the trophies that we had here as kids, when the original clubhouse burnt down, the cross country club, we didn't get the snow in the 70s, the mid 70s. So the downhill club kind of fell apart. And so I believe they gave the ski club, they gave to the cross country club. They gave them the chalet and about $70,000 and the operation and running of this. And so that's when this turned into a toboggan hill, because previous to that, toboggans were not allowed on the hill.
Really? I didn't know that.
Only skiers, because toboggans were out of control.
Right.
Right, and there was no skidoos. No skidoos were allowed down any of the trails, on any of the hills, and
even now, this cross-country ski trail, I think, is one of the best.
yeah, oh yeah,
In
and
the country.
It used to go all the way to Baker's Narrows.
Really?
Yeah, in the 70s, I'm going to say 76, 77, we had a group called Katimavat come to town, and they cut all the trails from here to town. It was pretty interesting. It was very interesting.
They're just beautiful, beautiful trails. Then there's lamps that light up the main loop throughout the night.
Yeah, no,
in winter.
Yeah, we only had the old green drop lights in those days, just on this hill. And if we go a little further, at the top of the hill, there was a trail that went that way. We called it, I can't remember. A snow puff, a cotter puff.
Cotter puff.
And it went through the bush and around, and you came down out here. And then, I don't even know if there's any poles left. There's no tow rope. That's all we had was a tow rope. And at the top of the tow rope, if you hung on and went too far, there was extension cord across the rope. And if you got pulled off your feet and you hit the extension cord, it would stop the tow rope.
Oh.
So that nobody got hurt.
That makes sense.
Right? And it was rough. And I don't know how they do it today, on other hills. But yeah, you can see the original post on that.
Oh,
that
yes.
thing there. You can see that there used to be the big old green. Well, there's even a couple left.
Right, there are. Yeah, I see it. Do you want to talk a little bit about the topography here? Because a lot of people, if they're from Manitoba, they don't realize that it's as rocky and hilly up here.
Oh yeah. Well, this is just this is natural. The original ski club was across Ross Lake on Second Valley, where there's still a hill there. But the problem with it was so
steep.
No, it wasn't steep enough.
Oh.
So you couldn't get up enough speed.
Oh.
So I've gone there snowboarding with friends in the past where we took a tow rope behind a skidoo, and they got you up to about 50K, and then you just let go and you had the speed to go down the hill.
Oh my gosh, that seems kind of crazy.
Yeah. So the original clubhouse was right up in there, actually. And in the summertime, we would come out here with Ivor Hedman, and we would cut all these twigs and branches out, and we would lay them over the rocks.
Oh, okay.
Right? And there was I don't know if it's still there or not, we had one raceway straight down that rock there. And it was pretty daring for a kid to come straight shooting out there and down. And right about where the posts are, that's where the tow shack was. And up that side, you can see there's trees right where the trees are growing on and where them rocks are. It was actually dug out, so the tow rope went right to the top, and it went right up to the very, very top of those rocks. And Powder Puff took off that way, and then there used to be trails across here. Baldy McClellan was a teacher and a scout leader in town, and he cut a number of trails out here. He was a cross-country skier. I don't think I ever saw him downhill. And that rock right there with the black, that was our ski jump.
This just went right in front of us here.
The pile of rocks up there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was our ski jump. And way up the hill there, if you look here, Crystal, you can see that one pole way up on the top there.
Oh, yes,
rocks.
yes.
That's Baldy. That was a ski hill. And you can see there's slag. The company poured slag up there so that we could get a really steep go off of it. And there's still a run that goes from there.
Okay,
down,
that's crazy.
Yeah, down through the bush here like this. And that's where we had all our races.
Yeah, I don't know if people can see that or not. I think so.
And we had the Nancy Green Ski League in those days. Right?
Yeah.
And so, that's when you met all the kids in town. That's when, I met Gordy Goodman, and I met the Sadlers and the Lyons family, and Ivor Hedman was Ivor and his wife Val were a huge part of this, along with the career hours. And same as the Spooner family, and there was so many kids out here, and so many, like, there was nothing on a Saturday for there to be 50 children out here, you know, and just laughing and having fun.
Yeah.
And then we would have, every now and then we would have night skiing, Friday and Saturday nights. And that was a blast.
Had what?
Night skiing.
Night skiing. Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, so I was probably about 8, 9, maybe 10 years old then. I grew up out here from 5 years old till about 13 is about the last time. And then we came out, at 16 we came out, we got the tow rope going. Although they had no insurance, they never had insurance for it. You can't buy insurance for a tow rope still to this day. That's why they have clubs. You have to be part of the club because you can't sue yourself. And yeah, those were like pretty special days. I don't remember going to Baldy until I was probably about 9 or 10. And yeah, this was a pretty special place to grow up. And there used to be a cross-country trail. I don't know if it still exists, but it came down to the base of those rocks over there, and then it cut across this swamp and came out here. And that was something else.
Yeah.
But I think this is the 4th clubhouse since I was a child. They burnt down.
Yeah.
The first one, you know, people were living under the deck and burnt it down. Second one, the same thing happened again. The third one, the fireplace wasn't done with a proper chimney, and it was this beautiful stone fireplace.
It was beautiful. I remember it.
Yes, and what was funny is Ivor Hedman and I got to work on that one. He did the plumbing and I did all the drywall. And yeah, and I remember Ivor, he always pressurized his lines with air to make sure he had no leaks, right?
Okay.
So I'd see him coming, and that one was up there a bit, and I'd see Ivor coming down the road to see how things were going, and I'd go over and I'd bump his pressure by about 10 pounds, eh? And he'd come in and he'd go, "I'm such a good plumber, it's increased in pressure," he'd say. But there was a man that really took care of a lot of kids and really mentored.
You know, I've been here for 25 years and I've heard so much about him, and I don't think I've met him.
You didn't meet him, eh?
I might have, but I've heard about him from Alistair Callaghan, and there's so many people I'd heard. Yeah. Maybe I met him, but I don't.
The Spooners were a big part of this out here, and Sandy and the Gummersons, Sandy and her husband, they were a huge part. They were ski mums and dads, and you know, they would load us up. I remember at 10 years old, they'd load us up in their cars and they'd take us to Thompson skiing, to La Riviere. We'd go all over the province, you know, with these kids. I'd get $20 for the weekend, which was a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
And I remember my dad trying to give Ivor money once for gas, saying, "No, Bill, no, this is my pleasure." Yeah. Yeah, and then he sold my dad I got fiberglass skis when I was 12, like top of the line, Spalding Yamaha skis. And I'm pretty sure, you know, Dad paid, I think, $150 with the bindings, the skis, and the boots. And I'll bet you it cost Ivor $200. You know, that's kind of
good people, good town, eh?
Good people. Yeah, lots of, and you know, to this day, I see the kids that I grew up with out here, and they're still family, you know?
Yeah.
That's community.
Yeah, right? It's so true.
Yeah, so.
That's location number 2.
Yeah. So this area behind me is where the Jubilee Hall was when I was a kid. And that's where all
community hall
the
here.
bands, like
Potty, Pinky and Potty, and
yeah, all those bands, they could get the hall for free, and they would charge 25 cents at the door. So and they would probably get 100 kids. Yeah. You know, so it was good money for the bands. You know, in a time when nobody was making money.
Yeah.
I was just a child then.
Yeah.
Like they tore it down when I was 16.
Okay, because the new community hall was built in the 60s, right?
I think early 60s.
Yeah.
Yes, I think.
Yeah. It's the community hall here.
It was always there as far as I can remember.
Yeah.
But I remember going to Christmas parties at the Jubilee Hall.
Really?
Which was also built by HBS. But it was getting pretty run down by the time I was like a teenager.
Yeah.
So
well, the Hud Bay really invested so much into this town, and for the families to have this quality of life.
You think
really.
about the 30s and 40s. When you came to town, if two people were applying for a job, and one of them was a musician, the musician got the job because they knew they had to entertain the local people.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why there's so much musical talent.
Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So interesting.
And this was the fire hall. This was this building right here was the fire station.
This was actually the fire
This was
station?
actually the fire station.
Huh.
Originally, the fire trucks were in there. It's been converted to a sewage lift station now, but it
Yeah.
was this
I
back
didn't
portion,
know
I
that.
believe. Yeah. Now I don't know if there was ever any place to live above it or anything, but yeah, this was the original where the original fire truck was parked.
And one of my favorite buildings is the staff house. It looks a little run down right now, and the Whitney House beside it.
Yes, yes.
I just love
The
love
staff
these
house,
spaces.
I remember going there as a kid, and the thing I remember is there was a pool table in there. I don't know if it's still there.
It is.
It's still there.
Yeah,
I haven't
I
been
know
in
it's
there
in there.
since I was a child.
Yeah, no, it's just the best place. It's like Harry Potter. It's like going back in
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just
Well, it was built like in the 30s, so
yeah.
you know,
It's
same as the Whitney.
yeah. I want this building. If anybody decides to like exit it, I love this building.
I doubt if they will.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Uptown was kind of a mystery as a child. Now, as a teenager, it was the place to be, right? And that was Vic's Cab. And at that time, there was 3 cab companies in town.
Wow.
There was Vic's, Mel's, and Joe's. And Joe's was the biggest. I think Joe had the most livery licenses, and he had the livery license to pick up people at the airport. And so he had a big limousine. He actually had a checker cab in Flintlawn for a number of years. The old New York checker cab.
Wow. I wonder how he got that.
I don't, probably by train.
Yeah.
He had one of the first cabs in town.
Okay.
And it was brought up by train, of course. And yeah, and then I think in the 70s, the late 70s, Vic's kind of shut her down, and Mel's. Those gentlemen got old, right?
Yeah.
And their kids didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So, and Joe's was around for a long time, and then I think I can't remember what United was called before it was United, but they bought up all the livery licenses.
Okay.
And now the livery licenses don't seem to make a don't seem to matter.
Okay.
So, you know, but yeah, and then beside on the other side of the building there was the Reminder. I don't remember what was in that building previous to the Reminder. And then beside that was a pool hall. I think it was called Fred's Pool Hall, but I'm not sure. I was only in there a few times at 14 and 15, and then he got old also, and I think his family just come and got him. But it had nickel pinball machines. And
so
it was like
great.
walking back in time when you went in there, and had the old leather pouch pool tables, and you know, it was a pretty cool place.
So there would have been, how many pool halls would there have been? Because there was
I think there was Alex's.
Jack's.
No, Alex's was on Main Street.
Okay.
And then downstairs at Friedman's,
Friedman's.
where Subway is now,
Yes.
was Friedman's. And the thing about Friedman's is it was all built on muskeg, and so things was always heaving. So you'd play pool on one side like this, and on the other side like this. So yeah, the pool tables were level, but the floor wasn't. And then there was always card games going on down there too. But and people always said, oh, they played for money, but I never saw it. But I'm sure they did.
Yeah,
You know.
it was-
And then there was a few other places, around town where the guys played cards for money.
Yeah.
The dry cleaning place that was owned by the teachers, I can't remember their series. The Siri family owned the dry cleaners. And in the basement where the boiler was, they had like kind of a steam room. And so Ivor Hedman and Mr. Siri, and I'm not sure who else. I think Mr. Sorensen. I think at the end Tony Spooner was involved in that. I think when Mr. Siri died, he left Ivor and Tony something like 200 gallons of blueberry wine. So I'm told.
Wow.
So anyways, yeah, growing up in Flintlawn was pretty unique and kind of special.
I love the buildings on Main Street. There's these long like that, and you can see in that old building behind you.
Yeah.
They were long and skinny rather than wide and narrow.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of buildings on Main Street that were like 15 feet wide.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like-
Well, you can see it because they look like they're sidewalks. There's
Well, like
wide, but there was a building between those.
Super Thrifty or the dollar store now is 3 buildings.
Really?
It's 3 buildings. Yeah, I think in about 1993 or 94, even before that, in 1990 or 92, we made all 3 of those buildings into one building.
Huh.
And redid the floors, and it was a big job.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So
3 buildings.
I worked at the Bay
Uh-huh.
when I was 16. I put bicycles together, and then I was in charge of setting up the campers.
And the Bay was on the south end of...
The Bay was where the Scotiabank is,
Okay.
and Red Apple.
Okay.
And that was all one big store. And then the parking lot beside it was the sporting center, where they had campers and canoes and boats, and you could buy a skidoo. You could buy. I put some of the first skidoos together for the Bay. And then after the first one came back, they made me go take a lesson with Mr. Saka because I wasn't quite getting it right. But I was 16, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's so interesting. So that was the largest store then?
Oh, it was the biggest store in
Yeah.
town for sure. And then the
I have a photo in my office of people walking uptown, and the women would dress up, and you'd have your matching gloves and purse and shoes,
Oh,
and
yeah.
this was just
Well,
to
in
come
the
uptown.
basement of the Bay, they had a fur vault. So all those women in town that had minks or really nice furs, they would store them there for the summer because fur, if it wasn't kept in and it was a refrigerated area,
Yeah.
The insects and the bugs would get to them.
Right.
So they had this, like it had a vault door on it and everything. And they had all these beautiful furs down there. And you know, I think when they closed it down, a lot of those furs, I think people had passed and nobody knew about their fur coats or where they were.
Oh.
So I think a lot of those fur coats were, who knows what happened to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So would the Bay have been the size of the Red Apple that's there right
The
now?
Bay was the size of the Scotiabank, the Red Apple, plus upstairs.
Okay.
There was a central staircase in the middle of it, and upstairs was furniture, Blue Mountain pottery.
Oh, wow.
You know, they had a children's section, a baby section, a fabric section, a shoe section, a sporting goods section. I mean, you had it all in one store. You know, it was, and the people I worked with there were just wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, again, to this day, I see those people and they're like family, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a great.
In the distance you can see them rising, pointing